homeschooling and how homeschoolers are affected by the laws in the state of Kansas. My thesis is that Kansas should pass a law making it possible for homeschool students to benefit from a dual enrollment opportunity and have contact with the supervising teacher in every district. Well, let me tell you a little bit about homeschooling. Homeschooling really erupted in the 1970s. The law does allow for homeschooling. It is covered under the Due Process Clause. All 50 states allow homeschooling, and it was settled in the courts with a court case called Wisconsin versus Yoder. This family was taken to court because they were not going to be allowed to homeschool their student in Wisconsin, and the court found that it was their right, it was their fundamental right to homeschool their child, whether that be for academic reasons or religious reasons. The Kansas law says that we have to have 1,116 hours or 186 days when you homeschool your student. So you do have to fulfill certain requirements when you're homeschooling your student in the state of Kansas. Interestingly enough, it is illegal in Germany, and so there's actually a family right now in the United States seeking asylum in the United States for the reason that they cannot homeschool their students in Germany. So I thought that was pretty interesting. There's actually a video on YouTube about that. So the problem is that the schools are friendly. The problem is that the schools are should be friendly to having a cooperative relationship between the homeschool student and the use of their resources. These resources are purchased by the taxpayers, and the law should be changed to make this a possibility. The schools are missing an opportunity to benefit themselves in this shared community. So, point A, the problem is that homeschool students don't reap the benefits that are available to them in their local district, yet that district is using our tax dollars for other students. Sometimes you might wonder why this is happening, and it is believed that there's a political bias by the schools, that they don't want to know the number of homeschoolers that are out there, and they don't want to be involved in the homeschooling movement. In fact, the teachers union tends to play down the number of homeschooled students in our area because it seems to create a negative effect on the teacher union. Some people say it's all about the funding, because of course every student in the United States provides funding, and that funding is channeled to your local district. So sometimes that does create a bad relationship between homeschoolers and districts, and that really does not need to be. So the problem is that these homeschool students that are in your community can't reap benefits from their local districts. In other words, they cannot go and take a band class or a music class or an art class from their local district, even though their tax dollars are being sent to that district. The idea that I have is that the policy should be put into effect so that students can benefit from the district resources. So the Kansas law should force districts to provide a liaison to every parent. And this was my idea, that if the Kansas law would force the districts to provide a liaison, then that way parents could have those resources made available to them. The example that I wanted to cite is that in Iowa, they have been given an opportunity to do one of three things. They have been given an opportunity as a homeschooling parent to A, meet with a teacher on a monthly basis every semester, and that teacher will confirm that the student is learning. They will provide reports showing what the child has learned, The second thing they can do is they can dual enroll, which means they would go to that classroom, to that building, and take some of those classes, say perhaps just sign up for a sports or a band. The third thing they can do is fill out forms. So what the state of Iowa has done is they've allowed parents to continue to have their freedom to homeschool while they have also channeled the resources that they have in the local districts to those parents. Therefore, those parents can use those resources. So I think Kansas should do something very similar to what Iowa has done. This would allow, as I said, for the parents to use the resources, for the students to excel with those added opportunities, and also it would provide for a shared environment between the two entities. There's several benefits that we could see coming from this better relationship. The students would have access to all these resources, and they would be able to improve their education with these resources. I also believe that the student or the school would benefit through this shared experience. A lot of times these kids are the kids that are at the top of their class, that are good studiers, that could get involved in clubs or groups, that could provide perhaps leadership in some way in the school district. So those are the things we've discussed today. We discussed the homeschooling experience. We discussed the history of homeschooling. We also talked about the opportunity that the kids would have if they were able to share their resources with the schools. These schools are guardians of these resources, and I believe it is their responsibility to provide for these opportunities for these homeschooling students. What you can do, if you're interested in this, is you can contact your legislator and talk to your legislator in your district and encourage your legislator in the state of Kansas to provide some law regarding this. There's also organizations you could join. The one in Kansas is called CHEC, Christian Homeschooler Education Committee, and you can talk with the CHEC people and they can set you up with some information regarding how to best use the resources locally in your district. The works cited that I wanted to share with you, I got some of my information from HSLDA, which is the Homeschool Legal Defense Association. I got some information from homeschoolingiowA.org, from Kansas Homeschooling, and from familyeducation.com.